So I strongly disagree that every police officer should have a taser. They've been fired at children, they've been fired at a blind man. Someone actually died from being tasered.
First of all, tasers don't kill people. You know, the horror stories of they're exaggerated. So you need to sort of just understand what they
I do understand. You look quite familiar to me.
I certainly, you know, I've known of your name. I don't think we've ever paths have crossed directly. Strongly disagree.
Yeah.
Well, you'd rather they had guns.
The thing I don't like about the tasers is when the police were asking for them, they said, oh, they'd be used in special circumstances, they'd only be used under certain rules, but like anything else that you give to a kind of uniformed body, everyone's going to want to try them out. And we found out since that they've been fired at children, they've been fired at a blind man carrying a walking stick, and that someone actually died from being tasered. So I strongly disagree that every police officer should have a taser. I think there should be a certain squad that are trained to use them, and they should be called on if they're needed.
A few things in there. First of all, tasers don't kill people. You know, the horror stories about use on a kid, well, sometimes they're exaggerated. So you need to sort of just understand what they're for.
I do understand.
They fill a gap.
I read a lot of the information on them. I was quite interested in them because they were going to give them to prison officers at one stage as well. And I just completely disagree with using stuff like that on anybody rather than, and not just kids.
But you need to be aware what children are in the media headlines. They're under 18. Who's going around stabbing each other to death in horrendous circumstances at the moment? It's children.
Prisons are violent, brutal, horrible places where people get killed. More people die in our prison system than, you know, used to die when we had the death penalty. And most of them by hanging. Even the boredom on its own is enough to kill you. I was in 9 months in solitary with nothing, and I went mad. And a lot of people who go to prison with long sentences end up in psychiatric hospitals.
But with the staffing cuts, with the pressures, with the levels of violence going up, with everything that's happening, there's significant harm to prison officers. Go on.
Well, I'm speaking from experience here. My first ever experience of the police was actually being kidnapped off the street at the age of 14 with a mate of mine and being basically tortured and abused by police officers who were drunk, a burglary squad, to get us to admit to burglaries we'd never committed. From there, I became a criminal, and so did my pal.
I can understand how that would. The vast majority of cases are not like yours. There might have been a few in those days, but I can understand where you're coming from. Depends on what you mean by hurt. Physically, I'd be here. Psychologically, I'd sort of be here, I guess.
I think I've got to change to strongly disagree.
Maybe I'd go to disagree, but like I say, it depends if we're talking physical hurt or psychological hurt. Psychological hurt, they hurt people. It's unusual for bank robbers to be shooting people.
My wife was recently in an armed robbery. She was a witness in an armed robbery up in Croydon. I realised I had done 5 years in therapy and I'd met victims of armed robbery, and I realised how traumatising it was. But to see your own wife for days afterwards being affected by it, you then realise that, you know, no matter, even if you think you're some sort of Robin Hood, gentleman bank robber or whatever, you're not, because you're bursting into people's lives and you're imposing your will on them. You know, basically, most crimes are going to hurt somebody.
I came very close, probably about less than a millimetre away. All I could see was the back of his head. Me and a colleague covering him, one hand went down, so we're yelling at him, put the hand back. When he did, I realised that the trigger had been pulled, and then as I sort of relaxed away from it, as his hand came back, I realised, well, that was close, and I reckon it was less than a millimetre away. So yeah, it changes your life.
I think even picking up a gun for a criminal changes your life. It's only a small step to shooting somebody, as you well know, it's a pull of a trigger.
You'll have seen people, I've met criminals that have fired shots and it's totally changed them. Some of them it destroys them. They just realise what their damage they're causing.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to. Then again, we come from a generation where we'd be sitting across the table at the point I've just charged you with 3 armed robberies or something, and we'd be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Nice to meet you as well.